Success has a way of silencing laughter. One minute you're sitting at your family's Thanksgiving table, enduring their mockery of your dreams, and the next you're signing million-dollar contracts while they scramble to understand how they got it so wrong. That's how it was for me, Olivia Mitchell, founder and CEO of Secure Stack Solutions. Though my family still saw me as their wayward daughter who'd thrown away her stable accounting career to chase some tech fantasy. More turkey, Michael. Mom beamed at my older brother, who sat at his usual place of honor at the table. Michael, the golden child, the Harvard MBA who'd landed a cushy executive position at Anderson Global, one of the largest consulting firms in the country. The vegetables for Olivia, Dad added, barely glancing my way. She needs to save money now that she's, what are you calling it? An entrepreneur. The way he said it made it sound like a dirty word. I pushed my green beans around my plate, remembering the morning's investor meeting. The one where I'd presented my cybersecurity platform to a room full of venture capitalists. The one my family didn't know about, because they'd stopped asking about my work months ago. Actually, I started, but Michael cut me off. Speaking of work, he announced, straightening his designer tie, I've just been promoted to Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. Mom clasped her hands together in delight. Dad's chest puffed with pride. Even my younger sister Emma, usually absorbed in her phone, looked up with interest. That's wonderful, honey, Mom gushed. Tell us everything. I sat back, my own news dying on my lips as Michael launched into a detailed account of his latest corporate triumph. The corner office with a view of the city. The team of 20 people under his command. The 6-figure bonus. Now that's a real career, Dad said pointedly. Not some pipe dream about computer programs. They're advanced cybersecurity protocols, I corrected automatically. And the market need is? Oh, honey. Mom interrupted, her voice dripping with false concern. Are you still pursuing that hobby? I thought you'd have gone back to accounting by now. Michael smirked. Playing businesswoman again? Liv? How cute. The condescension in his voice made my blood boil. If they only knew what I'd been building over the past 18 months. The late nights coding. The endless pitch meetings. The breakthrough when I'd finally cracked the encryption algorithm that made my security platform unique. It's not a hobby, I said firmly. SecureStack is a real company. We're actually about to. Remember when she wanted to be an astronaut? Emma piped up, giggling. At least this phase is less dangerous. The table erupted in laughter. Even Aunt Patricia, who'd been quietly working on her 3rd glass of wine, joined in. I think it's important to support Olivia's creativity, Michael said magnanimously. Not everyone is cut out for the corporate world. Some people need to learn the hard way. I gripped my fork tighter, thinking of the term sheet sitting in my bag. The one with 7 zeros on it. The one that would change everything. But looking at their laughing faces, I realized something important. I didn't want to tell them. Not yet. Let them laugh. Let them dismiss me. Let them think whatever they wanted. Because in less than 24 hours, I was going to sign the biggest deal of my life. I forced a smile and reached for the green beans. You're right, Michael. Some people do need to learn the hard way. The next morning, I sat in my small but growing office in downtown's tech district. The space wasn't much. Just 2 floors in a converted warehouse, but it was mine. The exposed brick walls were covered in whiteboards filled with code. The open workspace hummed with the energy of my small but brilliant team. Morning, boss, called out Jake, my first hire and lead developer. He was already at his standing desk, 3 empty Red Bulls testament to another early start. "Big day," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Maria, my COO, appeared at my elbow with a steaming cup of coffee and a stack of papers. "The lawyers have reviewed everything. The terms are solid." I took a deep breath, remembering the mockery at yesterday's dinner. If my family could see me now, about to close a Series A funding round that would value SecureStack at $50 million. But they couldn't see me. Not yet. Because the best revenge isn't telling people how wrong they were, it's showing them. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Hope you're not too discouraged after last night. I know a few entry-level positions at Anderson if you're ready to get serious." I was about to respond when another message came through. This one from Atlas Ventures. "In lobby. Ready when you are." I slipped my phone into my pocket without replying to Michael. Let him think I was discouraged. Let him think I was failing. The truth would hit him hard enough soon. "Maria," I called out, straightening my jacket. "Let's go make some history." As I walked into the conference room where 3 of the biggest venture capitalists in tech were waiting, I couldn't help but smile. My family thought I was playing businesswoman. Well, game on. The Atlas Ventures meeting changed everything. $50 million? Jake whispered as we left the conference room, the signed term sheet safely in my bag. "We're worth $50 million. "No," I corrected him, unable to keep the smile off my face. "We're worth $50 million on paper. Now we have to prove we're worth even more." The next few months were a blur of activity. The funding announcement made waves in the tech industry. SecureStack Solutions raises $15 million, Series A to revolutionize cybersecurity. Read the TechCrunch headline. My inbox flooded with congratulations from former colleagues, college friends, and suddenly interested recruiters. But not a word from my family. I hadn't told them about the funding, hadn't mentioned the press coverage, hadn't breathed a word about how SecureStack was now being called the next big thing in enterprise security. Instead, I focused on growth. We moved from our converted warehouse to a full floor in a downtown high-rise. My team expanded from 12 people to 50, then 100. Maria hired a PR team, a sales force, and enough developers to build out our platform's next phase. "We need a chief technology officer," she announced one morning, dropping a stack of resumes on my desk. "Someone with serious enterprise experience." I flipped through the candidates. Former Google engineers, Amazon architects, a whole parade of impressive names. But one caught my eye. David Anderson, current head of security at Anderson Global Consulting. My brother's company. "Interesting timing," Maria said, watching my expression. "Did you see the news about Anderson Global's data breach?" I hadn't. A quick search pulled up the headlines from the previous day. "Major consulting firm suffers security breach. Client data compromised." Their whole system was exposed, Maria continued. "They're scrambling to contain the damage. Rumor has it heads are rolling." I thought of Michael, Mr. Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations, probably in crisis mode right now. For a moment, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Then I remembered Thanksgiving. Set up an interview with David, I decided. And Maria? Put Anderson Global on our prospect list. Something tells me they might be in the market for better security soon. 2 weeks later, David Anderson sat in my office, looking both impressed and slightly uncomfortable. "I have to admit," he said, adjusting his tie, "I was surprised to get the call. SecureStack's reputation in the industry is..." remarkable, especially given how young the company is. We move fast, I replied. Unlike some larger, more traditional firms. He winced. About Anderson Global. You've heard about the breach? I have. Sounds serious. It's worse than they're admitting publicly. The existing security infrastructure is outdated. Management refused to invest in upgrades, and now, he trailed off. Let's just say, I'm not the only one looking for new opportunities. I leaned forward. What if I offered you not just an opportunity, but a chance at redemption? Help us build something better. Something that could have prevented what happened at Anderson Global. David's eyes lit up. You know, he said slowly, your solution is exactly what they need right now. Have you considered? We have. I cut him off. But large consulting firms aren't really our target market at the moment. We're focused on more forward-thinking clients. The message was clear. If Anderson Global wanted Secure Stack's help, they'd have to come begging. David joined us the following week. Under his leadership, our technology team doubled in size. We landed contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. Our valuation climbed to $200 million. Still, I said nothing to my family. Mom called occasionally, always with the same concerned tone. Olivia, honey, are you still doing that computer thing? You know, Michael's company is always hiring. I'm fine, Mom, I'd say, sitting in my corner office overlooking the city. The same view Michael had bragged about, just 10 floors higher. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. Ms. Mitchell? My assistant's voice crackled over the intercom. There's someone from Anderson Global Consulting on line 1. They're requesting an urgent meeting. I glanced at the business news on my second monitor. Anderson Global's stock had dropped 30% since the breach. Clients were leaving. The board was asking questions. Who from Anderson Global? I asked, though I already knew. A Mr. Michael Mitchell, Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. My brother? Finally. Tell him, I said, savoring each word, that my calendar is quite full. But my junior associate might be able to fit him in next week. His assistant says it's extremely urgent. He's willing to come to our office immediately. I thought about all the times Michael had talked over me at family dinners, all the condescending comments about my hobby, all the smirks and eye rolls when I tried to explain my vision. Next week, I repeated firmly, and make sure he goes through all the proper channels. Every single one. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Honey, are you free for dinner tomorrow? Michael has some exciting news about his company, and we'd love for you to be there. Maybe he can give you some business advice. I looked around my office, at the awards lining the walls, the industry recognition, the framed magazine covers featuring Secure Stack's meteoric rise. Sorry, I texted back. I have a board meeting tomorrow. Maybe another time. Let them keep thinking I was playing businesswoman. The game was about to get a lot more interesting. The following Wednesday, I watched through my office window as my brother stepped out of his town car in front of our building. Even from 30 floors up, I could see his uncertainty as he stared at the Secure Stack logo dominating the entrance. He's here, my assistant announced through the intercom. Send him to the junior associate conference room, I replied. I'll be there shortly. I took my time, reviewing the latest product metrics on my tablet, while Michael cooled his heels in our smallest meeting space. After 20 minutes, just long enough to make a point, I headed down. Through the glass walls, I could see him pacing, his designer suit slightly rumpled, his usual polished demeanor showing cracks. He was muttering into his phone. No, Dad. I'm telling you, this place is massive. Why didn't we know about? Yes, I understand the board is angry. But if we can just... Hold on, she's here. I pushed open the door, and Michael's phone nearly slipped from his hand. Olivia? He looked like he'd seen a ghost. What are you? This is Secure Stack. Welcome to my hobby, I said coolly, settling into a chair. I hear Anderson Global is having some security issues. He stared at me, then at the awards lining the walls, then back at me. This is your company? You're the CEO everyone's been talking about. Surprised? But he sputtered. At Thanksgiving, you were just playing businesswoman. I finished for him. Please, sit down. I'm sure you didn't come here to discuss holiday memories. Michael sank into a chair, his world visibly rearranging itself. The breach, he said finally. It's worse than we thought. We're losing clients daily. The board is threatening to clean house. We need the best security solution on the market, I supplied. Which, as it happens, we provide, for the right price. Name it, he said immediately. Whatever you want. The board has authorized. I held up a hand. First, I want to know something. Why did Anderson Global ignore all the warning signs? David told me your security infrastructure was outdated years ago. Michael's face flushed. You hired David? Look, it was a budget issue. I argued for upgrades, but... No, I cut him off. You didn't. I've seen the board minutes. You voted against the security budget increase 3 times in the past year. Called it, what was the phrase? Unnecessary tech spending. He deflated. How did you? I do my homework, Michael. Always have. Even when you were too busy mocking my dreams to notice. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of dismissal and condescension. I'm sorry, he said finally. We were wrong. I was wrong. Yes, you were. I opened my tablet and pulled up a contract. Our standard enterprise package starts at $2 million annually. Given the scope of Anderson Global's needs, we're looking at closer to $5 million, plus implementation costs. Michael's eyes widened at the numbers, but he nodded. That's fine. When can you start? Oh, I won't be handling your account personally, I smiled. As I said, you'll be working with one of our junior associates. Anderson Global will be our smallest client after all. Smallest? He looked stunned. But we're a Fortune 500 company. And we protect half of the Fortune 100, I replied. Like I said, homework. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Honey, Michael missed family dinner tonight. He said something about a work emergency. I hope everything's okay with his company. I showed Michael the text. Should I tell her, or would you prefer to? He ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly older. Can we keep this between us? Just until you're ready to admit you need your little sister's help? I finished. Fine, but I want something in return. Anything. Next time I'm at family dinner talking about my company, you sit there and listen. No interruptions, no condescension, no playing businesswoman comments. Deal? He nodded slowly. Deal. After Michael left, clutching the contract and looking shell-shocked, I called Mom. About Thanksgiving dinner next week, I said. I'll be there. And I have some news to share. Oh, honey, that's wonderful, she gushed. You know, if it's about a job, Michael might be able to. Actually, I cut her off. It's about my company. We just landed a major new client. You might have heard of them, Anderson Global Consulting." The silence on the other end was deafening. 3 days later, David forwarded me an internal Anderson Global email announcing a major new security partnership. At the bottom was a note. "All inquiries should be directed to our account manager at Secure Stack Solutions." I had it framed and hung it in my office, right next to the magazine covers. The following Thursday, I sat at my parents' Thanksgiving table again. This time, when Mom asked Michael about work, he just said quietly, "Why don't we let Olivia tell us about her company first?" Dad nearly choked on his turkey. I smiled, took a sip of wine, and began to tell them about my little hobby. The one that now protected billions in assets, employed hundreds of people, and had just saved their precious Michael's career. Success, as it turns out, does more than silence laughter. Sometimes it changes the whole conversation. That evening, as I was leaving, Michael caught me by my car. "The board approved the contract," he said. "Full amount." "I know," I replied. "The paperwork came through this morning." He shuffled his feet. "Listen, Liv. There's a position opening up. Head of Innovation. It could be good for both companies if—" "Michael," I cut him off. "I'm not interested in working for Anderson Global. I'm quite happy running my own billion-dollar company." His eyes widened. "Billion? Did I forget to mention? We just closed our Series B, $200 million, at a $1.5 billion valuation." I unlocked my car. "But don't worry, I'm sure Mom and Dad will still be more impressed by your corner office." As I drove away, I caught his reflection in my rearview mirror, standing there in the driveway looking lost. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy, but a bigger part remembered all those years of mockery and dismissal. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they can't ignore, can't dismiss, and most importantly, can't live without. The next morning, I walked into my office to find a gift basket from Anderson Global's board of directors, thanking SecureStack for our crucial partnership in these challenging times. I had Maria send it to the break room for the team to enjoy. After all, success tastes sweetest when shared. Well, almost sweetest. The look on Michael's face when he has to attend quarterly security reviews with our junior associate? That might taste just a little bit better. Success has a way of silencing laughter. 1 minute you're sitting at your family's Thanksgiving table, enduring their mockery of your dreams, and the next you're signing million-dollar contracts while they scramble to understand how they got it so wrong. That's how it was for me, Olivia Mitchell, founder and CEO of Secure Stack Solutions. Though my family still saw me as their wayward daughter who'd thrown away her stable accounting career to chase some tech fantasy. "More turkey, Michael." Mom beamed at my older brother, who sat at his usual place of honor at the table. Michael, the golden child, the Harvard MBA who'd landed a cushy executive position at Anderson Global, one of the largest consulting firms in the country. "The vegetables for Olivia," Dad added, barely glancing my way. "She needs to save money now that she's— what are you calling it? An entrepreneur." The way he said it made it sound like a dirty word. I pushed my green beans around my plate, remembering the morning's investor meeting. The one where I'd presented my cybersecurity platform to a room full of venture capitalists. The one my family didn't know about because they'd stopped asking about my work months ago. Actually, I started, but Michael cut me off. "Speaking of work," he announced, straightening his designer tie, "I've just been promoted to Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations." Mom clasped her hands together in delight. Dad's chest puffed with pride. Even my younger sister Emma, usually absorbed in her phone, looked up with interest. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom gushed. "Tell us everything."
My name is Darcy. I live in a house with my husband, Carlos, and our daughter, Nikki. Carlos and I met in college and became close friends. I studied design, and he studied law. We both joined the same club. After college, I got a job at a design firm, which I really enjoyed. Carlos and I dated for a while, then got married when we were in our early 20s. When I got pregnant with Nikki, I kept working until she was born. But after she arrived, I decided to stay home and take care of her. Carlos and others thought it was a good idea for me to focus on being a mom, so I started working from home. Carlos became a lawyer after passing the bar exam. One day, Nikki said, "Mommy, I'm going to play with my friends. I'll be back before it gets dark, okay?" Life is really great living with my husband and daughter, and doing work I love. But one day, something surprising happened. I was out shopping, quite far from home, when I saw my mother-in-law, Christine, struggling with some heavy bags. I decided to go over to her. "Hi, mother-in-law." "Oh, Darcy, what a surprise," Christine said with a warm smile. It had been a while since we last saw each other, so I was happy to see her and suggested, "How about we have some tea together?" "I'd love to, but I'm in a rush," she replied. "Oh, I understand. No worries. Let's plan to catch up over tea next time. But let me help you with these bags at least. They look really heavy," I offered. After a bit of convincing, I managed to load her bags into the back seat of my car. They were quite heavy, and carrying 2 of them would have been a challenge. "Thank you and sorry," Christine said with a smile. It made me feel better that being a bit assertive was okay. Plus, there was something I wanted to talk to her about. As we drove to her home, we chatted about various things. Since it takes about 3 hours and 30 minutes to get to our in-laws' place, we can't visit often. But we always make sure to visit for New Year celebrations, so I know the way well. "Wasn't it hard for you to carry all of this by yourself?" I asked, finally bringing up something that had been on my mind. During the drive, I noticed that one of the bags my mother-in-law was carrying had groceries, while the other had daily essentials and cosmetic items that seemed more suited for a younger person rather than her usual style. "Well, they're just things I needed. I ended up getting quite a bit," she said, looking a bit down. I didn't push for more information and continued driving us to her home. "Darcy, thank you so much for your help. You've been a lifesaver. You can drop me off here. I'll manage to take them from the entrance," Christine said gratefully. "You don't have to do that," I replied. As my mother-in-law opened the door, I placed the bags by the entrance. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the air. "About time you got back, mother-in-law," said my sister-in-law, Katie. She seemed taken aback to see me, and her words faltered. I was equally surprised to see Katie, and I found myself unable to move. My mother-in-law looked flustered as she tried to gauge the situation. "Hey, Katie, it's been a while. How have you been?" I said, attempting to ease the tension. Yeah, it's been a bit," Katie replied. I returned her smile and observed her closely. She seemed a bit disheveled, like she had just woken up. Holding her phone, she appeared a bit distracted. Her interrupted sentence left me feeling a bit suspicious. "I'm sorry for dropping in unexpectedly. I saw mother-in-law struggling with the bags while I was shopping nearby, so I decided to help out," I explained. "I see. I just got back from work this morning. I'm a bit of a mess. Sorry about that. Thanks for helping, mother-in-law. I'll take it from here," Katie said hastily, grabbing the bags and heading inside. In a gentle tone, I asked my mother-in-law, "Is everything okay living with Katie and the family?" She simply smiled and nodded. "Thank you for asking, Darcy. I'm doing fine. I'm sorry I can't offer you tea." "Don't worry about it. It was nice catching up. I'll come visit again," I reassured her, deciding not to push further. But I couldn't shake off the feeling about what I had just seen. Originally, my mother-in-law was supposed to live with us, but after my father-in-law passed away over a decade ago, my brother-in-law, Brett, had said, "We'll stay in the family home and take care of Mom." Even Carlos, my husband, had been concerned at first. I felt uneasy about the situation, so I decided to bring it up, but it didn't go well. Carlos is really busy with work, isn't he? And his days off are unpredictable. I work nearby, and Katie's parents are close too, but still, my mother-in-law reassured me. "Don't worry. I caused a lot of trouble when I was younger, and I haven't done much for Mom. I want to repay her. Okay, considering what was said, Carlos couldn't really argue. So with my mother-in-law's agreement, my brother-in-law and his wife ended up moving into her house. Today, I talked to Carlos about what happened. Really? That's concerning. I'm a bit worried now. Maybe we should give Brett a call, Carlos suggested, sensing my unease. After listening to my concerns, Carlos decided to call Brett. Hey, Brett, it's Carlos. How's everything going? Carlos greeted him. Hey, Carlos, everything's good, Brett replied. After some small talk, Carlos steered the conversation toward the topic at hand. These calls usually ended up with Brett talking about how great things were between him and Katie, and this one was no different. Glad to hear things are going well for you, Carlos said politely. Yeah, we're planning an extended vacation next week. Is Mom coming along? Brett inquired. Well, Mom actually said it's fine if it's just the two of us, Carlos responded. Carlos and I exchanged glances. It wasn't unexpected considering my mother-in-law's nature, but we did notice Brett pause for a moment. In that case, why don't we have Mom stay with us while you're away? Carlos proposed. What? Brett sounded surprised at Carlos's suggestion. I glanced at Carlos, who gave me a reassuring smile before continuing. We haven't seen Mom in a while, and I think Nikki will be thrilled. I'll reach out to Mom. So it's settled, Carlos stated firmly. Hey, hold on. Carlos interrupted before Brett could respond further. He took a deep breath, his expression serious as he looked at me. This was a chance for us to delve deeper into the situation with my mother-in-law. After that, Carlos quickly finalized the arrangements with Brett. I coordinated with my mother-in-law, and she agreed to stay with us for about a week. Granny's coming today, Nikki exclaimed excitedly. Yes, it's going to be fun, I replied. Nikki adores her grandmother, so she was thrilled about her visit. A few days later, my mother-in-law arrived with only a few belongings. As soon as she stepped in, she seemed relieved and bowed her head. I'm sorry for imposing for a whole week, she said. No need to apologize. We're glad to have you here. Nikki has been looking forward to it, so please make yourself comfortable, I reassured her. And so we spent a week together with my mother-in-law. However, I couldn't shake off the unease I felt about her behavior from the very beginning. Before her arrival, I had cleaned up the home office I usually work in to make space for her. When I showed her the room, she immediately said, "Oh, you've set up such a nice room for me. I feel guilty. I'd be fine with just a corner. Don't worry about it. Please feel free to use the room. I only use it for work anyway," I insisted, but she still seemed apologetic. With the kids off school, I had planned to make lunch for the three of us when my mother-in-law surprised me by saying, "Let me cook. Can I use the fridge?" Despite my insistence that she should relax, she kept insisting on doing household chores. Eventually, I managed to convince her to unwind in the living room while Nikki kept her company. Throughout the day, she would make comments like, "Oh, don't trouble yourself with snacks for me. I'm not worth it," or "I'm fine with whatever leftovers there are. Cold food is enough for me," as if she was an outsider rather than family. It was hard to see her belittling herself like this when she used to be much more lively. When Carlos came home and saw my mother-in-law chatting with Nikki, I filled him in on her behavior. "I understand. Thanks for telling me. I wish she would see her own worth more. Let's keep an eye on her. It's only the first day, right?" As it got late and we were getting ready for bed, my mother-in-law surprised us again by saying, "I guess I'll use this spot for a bit," referring to the basement floor as a place to sleep. Mom, Carlos was speechless. I calmly said, "Mother-in-law, please consider this your room until you leave. Use a blanket so you stay warm." "But won't that be a bother?" she asked. "Absolutely not. We want you to feel comfortable and enjoy your time here," I said earnestly, looking her straight in the eye. Her behavior hinted at the kind of life she'd been living with her own family. When I smiled warmly at her, my mother-in-law's eyes welled up with tears, and she finally broke down. "It's been 10 years since I've slept in such a warm place. Thank you." The revelation hit me hard, and Carlos's voice dropped several notches, filled with disbelief. "Mom, tell us the truth. Are things okay with Brett and the others? How's life really been?" My mother-in-law let out a nervous chuckle before answering. "Well, okay might be pushing it, but I have to manage, right? I mean, if they kicked me out, I wouldn't know what to do at my age." Slowly, she started to open up about the harsh reality of her life. It was far worse than we had imagined. She was doing all the housework in that house. Whenever Katie wasn't happy, she'd get yelled at. All the shopping duties fell on my mother-in-law's shoulders. She was even covering most of the living expenses. It became clear that her son-in-law and his wife had ulterior motives when they suggested living together, mainly to exploit my mother-in-law's finances. My mother-in-law would only eat after Brett and Katie were done, usually in the unheated basement, leaving her freezing during the winter months. "It's been a while since I've had a meal like today," she confessed tearfully. "I've always been alone, you know," she revealed. "What? Are you serious?" I was shocked by her revelation. It turned out that my mother-in-law wanted to sleep in the basement because it had become the norm for her in her previous home. Carlos and I were speechless. Initially, when Brett and Katie moved in, they were kind to her. At first, my mother-in-law was happy and thought it was a good idea to live with them. However, as the years passed, their behavior changed drastically. In the beginning, Katie used to cook and Brett would help with other chores. "I'm so tired, Brett. You work so hard. Let me take care of things today. You should rest," Katie would say. "Really? Thanks, Mom," Brett would reply. That was probably the beginning. "I'm really tired today," my mother-in-law would say. "Oh, sorry, Katie, I have plans with the neighbors today," Katie would reply. "What? You're prioritizing them over me?" Katie would retort. "Oh, I apologize. That's selfish of me," my mother-in-law would say. "No, that's not it. Don't worry. I'll prepare dinner when I get back," Katie would assure her. "This is my room, and this is Brett's room," my mother-in-law would assert. Gradually, Brett and Katie started to manipulate and exploit my mother-in-law more and more. Eventually, she found herself shouldering almost all of the household chores and contributing financially as well. At first, my mother-in-law used what used to be my father-in-law's study as her room. It was a well-equipped space with a bed and other furnishings, and she was happy to have such a cherished space as her own. However, even the study wasn't safe from Katie's interference. One day, Katie suggested, "Let's renovate this old study." "Hold on, Katie, this was my husband's beloved study. Can we please leave it as it is?" my mother-in-law pleaded. "I'm just thinking about your comfort," Katie would insist. "Why are you making me out to be the bad guy?" my mother-in-law would question. "I'm sorry, but I prefer it the way it is, really," she would say. "This room is outdated. It's worthless with all this junk," Katie would argue. Then, intentionally, Katie reached for a piece of glasswork, a music box made of glass, a favorite of my late father-in-law. He bought it during a trip they took together, and it held sentimental value. But Katie deliberately dropped it. "Oops, my mistake. I didn't mean to," Katie would say. "Oh no, the glass is shattered everywhere. It's so dangerous. What a shame to keep this room the same, especially with all this junk. Please don't touch anything else," my mother-in-law would plead. "Who do you think you're talking to? Fine, I'll leave the study alone. But from now on, you handle everything in the house. And with all this junk, it's too risky for you to sleep here. You should sleep in the basement." "Any objections?" Katie would demand. In the end, my mother-in-law reluctantly agreed and had to sleep in the basement. I felt like I was going to faint hearing all these shocking stories. At the same time, I was furious with myself for not noticing sooner. "I'm so sorry, Mom. How did I not see any of this?" I asked, feeling guilty. "Don't blame yourself. I was hiding it too. Isn't it awful?" my mother-in-law replied sadly. "The reason we never noticed was also because of a scheme by my brother-in-law and his wife. They only gave my mother-in-law a room when relatives visited, but it was empty, no bed, no furniture, and if she dared to speak up, they threatened to destroy her study. They only acted nice when other people were around. We didn't see what was happening because of that. If my mother-in-law and I hadn't bumped into each other that day, this might have continued even longer." The thought sent chills down my spine. "I always wanted to talk to you about this, but that study and that house are full of memories with my husband," my mother-in-law said tearfully. Tears streamed down her face, and I couldn't hold back my own. Our dear mother-in-law had endured this for over a decade. I couldn't even imagine how hard it must have been for her. How could her own family do this? They're heartless, I exclaimed, pulling her into a tight hug. "Darcy, I need to step out for a moment," my mother-in-law said, her voice trembling with emotion. After we cried together, Carlos gently rubbed my back and spoke softly. "Don't worry, Darcy and Mom. I'll take care of this. Please look after Mom, Darcy." I nodded silently. "Got it. Leave Mom to me, Carlos." I hugged our worried mother-in-law again, soothing her with gentle strokes on her back. Then I turned to Carlos and said firmly, "Go teach those awful people a lesson." "Absolutely," Carlos chuckled and nodded, then left the house. Later he called to say he wouldn't be back until tomorrow evening. I shared the news with my mother-in-law, and we all drank warm milk, trying to lift the mood with some good stories. Nikki, who had heard the commotion, looked concerned and joined us. I wanted to replace at least some of the bad memories. Usually, I'd remind Nikki not to stay up late, but since tomorrow was a day off, the three of us enjoyed chatting until we were content. "All right, that's enough for today, mother-in-law. How about joining us for some shopping tomorrow? We can buy whatever you want and eat delicious food. There's a cute dessert place that Nikki loves. Let's have a relaxing day, just the three of us," I suggested. At my words, my mother-in-law's eyes filled with tears again. She nodded slowly, repeating thank you over and over. That night, we set up an air mattress in the living room and slept closely together, with my mother-in-law in the middle. The next morning, she greeted us with the same smile she used to have when my father-in-law was alive. "Good morning," she exclaimed. And just as promised, we all had a fun shopping day. In the evening, we received a message from Carlos saying he had returned home. So we headed back as well. Before going inside, I had one more thing to say to my mother-in-law. "Mother-in-law, we're on your side. Whatever is hurting you, feel free to share it with us. We'll always be here for you. And I'm on Granny's side too," I reassured her. She nodded silently in response. "Welcome home." "Sorry for leaving the house to you." Carlos greeted us with a warm smile. "We're back. Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, no issues here," Carlos replied. I had Nikki and my mother-in-law wait in my home office while I walked into the living room. My eyes widened when I saw my brother-in-law and his wife sitting on the floor, their hands trembling slightly on their knees. They greeted me in a soft voice, their faces filled with apprehension. What's going on?" My confusion was evident on my face as I turned to Carlos. Still smiling, he said, "I haven't taken any action yet." His use of "yet" made me tense up, anticipating something significant. "To get straight to the point, starting today, Mom will be living with us," Carlos announced. I felt relieved to hear those words. Carlos continued speaking, and as he did, I nodded in agreement. "So, Brett, do you fully understand the impact of your actions on Mom? And you too, Katie, do you realize what you've put someone else's mother through in her own home? I can't say it's entirely your fault. We didn't notice it either. But you need to take responsibility for your actions. After all, you're supposed to be mature adults," Carlos spoke passionately. It was the first time I had seen the usually gentle and calm Carlos so angry. I usually prefer not to bring work matters into our home. But this time, I'm speaking as Miss Christine's attorney, not just as family, Carlos continued. His tone was firm but controlled. My brother-in-law and his wife responded meekly, "Yes." After several hours of discussion, several decisions were reached. Firstly, my brother-in-law and his wife would no longer be living with us. They were required to return all the money they had taken from my mother-in-law, along with additional compensation. In consideration of my mother-in-law's emotional attachment to her study and her own home, my brother-in-law and his wife agreed to move out. We forbade them from ever entering my mother-in-law's home again. Upon hearing the decision, my mother-in-law gave a troubled smile. "So we're still family, right? Asking for compensation seems a bit extreme, don't you think?" she said. Carlos's words caused Brett to nod so vigorously that it looked as though his head might fall off. Yes, I'm truly sorry for everything. Please accept this as our apology," Brett said, looking thoroughly remorseful. After the discussion, Carlos took a deep breath and addressed my mother-in-law. "So please accept this, Mom. Let's put this behind us. Brett and his wife will never forget what they've done and will ensure it never happens again," Carlos said gently. They both nodded in silence. Seeing this, Carlos smiled softly and continued in a quiet voice. "It won't happen again, right?" They both responded, Yes, never again, absolutely." So the conversation came to an end. Within a few months, we received the compensation that Carlos had arranged for my brother-in-law and his wife. My mother-in-law wanted to give it to us, saying it was because we had helped her, but we refused. She insisted, so we agreed to accept a small amount each month for groceries and let her use the rest. Carlos, what did you say to Brett and his wife? I was curious about that day, so I asked him when we were alone. I said to Carlos. Carlos scratched his head, even though it wasn't itchy. Don't worry about me losing my cool, okay? Why would I? You stood up for your mom, and they regretted what they did. I replied. Actually, Carlos had contacted Brett immediately after hearing what had happened. It's rare for me to get angry, but when I do, people say I'm pretty intimidating. I think I really scared them when I called, Carlos said. He told me where he was right away. Although a bit distant, he drove straight to the destination. Upon arriving, he'd immediately confronted the two. I couldn't just let it slide, especially because he's my brother, and I trusted him with Mom. I didn't know all the details, but judging by how scared they both looked, Carlos must have been really intimidating when he was angry, I thought. As they left, they bowed deeply, saying, "We're truly sorry." Well, mother-in-law seems happy, and so does Nikki. I'm happy too. Thank you for standing up for us, Carlos. I'll keep doing my best for our family, even after everything. It's reassuring to know we can still be a happy family, I said, grateful for my reliable husband and for my mother-in-law, who chose to lean on us. From now on, I'm determined to make up for the hardships by being a devoted daughter-in-law and doing my best in every way. One day, when I got home, I couldn't find my husband anywhere. He had left without telling me, and I couldn't find any clues about where he went. A few days later, I discovered that he and my sister had run away together to get married. That was 12 years ago. Recently he called me and said he was coming back home with my sister, his wife now, and that I should leave his parents' house. He was upset that I was living there. It's been 12 years since they ran away, and it seems like he wants to make my sister his wife officially now that things have calmed down. But they don't know. They don't realize how much our family, including me, has changed since then. My name is Melanie Miller, and I'm 27 years old. I studied web design and worked at a company where I met my husband, Shane. Shane is a friendly guy who works in sales. We fell in love quickly and got married after a year of dating. After we got married, we moved in with his parents. I quit my job at the company and started working as a freelance web designer from home. I wanted to take care of our home and support my husband's lifestyle. At first, it was hard for me to find a steady job, so my income wasn't always reliable. But now things had changed. I was able to find work easily and make a steady income. I could work at my own pace and prioritize my family. I cherished the time I spent with my husband and his family in the mornings, evenings, and before bed. Life felt really good. But I started to notice a change in my husband's behavior. It began when I started making twice as much money as I did at my previous job just 2 months earlier. I was thrilled to have reached and exceeded my old salary. I couldn't wait to tell my husband when he got home from work. Shane, guess what? Last month, I made twice as much as I used to at my whole job. What? Seriously? Your old job paid pretty well, didn't it? Yeah, but I've been wanting more. I finally did it. Yeah, sure, that's great. You want me to throw you a party? My husband's response was unexpectedly sarcastic and negative. I couldn't understand why he was acting that way, so I asked, Shane, are you upset with me about something? Did I do something wrong? I thought you'd be happy for me. Why should I be happy? My salary didn't increase. Well, yes, but can't you just be happy for me, your wife? Really? I'm not like you. I'm just not naturally happy. Shane. After that argument, my husband started to withdraw more and more each day. Our talks became less frequent until I was the only one saying good morning and good night. Even though we had only been married for a year, it felt like we were far from happy. My in-laws, who we lived with, could sense the tension but never said anything. 2 months passed and nothing changed. We ate together in silence, and he always controlled the TV. When I was watching something, he would eat all the food I bought without asking. Whenever I tried to talk to him about it, he would argue, so I stopped bringing it up. One day, while I was cleaning the house, my mother-in-law approached me looking concerned. Melanie, how are you feeling? Are you all right? What do you mean, am I all right? Well, when you and Shane first got married, you used to go out and have a good time together. But lately, It seems like you don't do that much anymore, and you hardly talk. Yeah, but we've only been married for a year, I replied, trying to brush off her concern. I forced a smile to reassure her, but she could tell it wasn't genuine. She looked at me seriously. If you don't want to talk about it, that's okay, but I worry about you. Lately, it seems like you've been feeling down. Well, I'm not pretending to be okay. Your father has noticed it too. We're just concerned that you might be overwhelming yourself. Oh, Mom. I couldn't deny that my husband's discomfort with my higher income might have been partly my fault. But at the same time, I felt alone in my achievement. When my mother finally acknowledged the pain I was feeling, it brought tears to my eyes. So I decided to open up to her completely. After hearing everything I had to say, she started to comfort me and said, I'm so sorry. He's just not mature enough to be genuinely happy for your success. No, it's my fault. I was selfish to expect him to be genuinely happy for me. But you shouldn't have to deal with this alone in a marriage, Melanie. Keeping your feelings bottled up will only make things worse. I don't think it could get any worse. All right, so you and Shane really need to have a serious conversation about this. Can you do that? Yes, I can. Thank you for confiding in me, honey. She smiled warmly at me. Of course. Then she gave me a comforting pat on the head. My in-laws love me like their own daughter. They've been my support. Taking my mother-in-law's advice to heart, I decided to have a serious talk with my husband. That night, I stayed up late, waiting for him to come home. But as the hours passed, there was no sign of him. He usually got home by 10 at the latest, but it was already past 11, and he still hadn't returned. Why are you taking so long? I texted him, but he didn't respond. I started to worry that something might be wrong. I tried calling him, but he didn't pick up, and the phone just kept ringing. So I waited anxiously. Finally, around midnight, he walked in. I've been trying to reach you, I began, but he just sighed loudly and looked annoyed. What's going on? Why are you still up? Well, I wanted to talk to you about something important today. About what? He replied, sounding annoyed. I think our issues started because of my new salary, right? I should have maybe kept that to myself. I know it might have hurt your pride. As soon as I said that, I felt a shiver down my spine. He was standing there, looking cold and distant. I was scared stiff. He responded with anger. There's nothing to talk about, and it's pathetic that you're waiting up for me. I'm just trying to make things better between us, Shane. That's the problem. I obviously made a mistake in choosing the right partner. No, I'm exhausted from working overtime. You don't have any right to speak, considering you just stay home all day. My husband stormed past me and headed upstairs to our room. I couldn't bring myself to move until I was sure he was upstairs. Why was he talking to me like that? All I wanted was a normal married life. My mother-in-law had encouraged me to talk to him, but it didn't solve anything. After his attitude, I didn't want to push for another conversation. It felt like he completely ignored me as a person, and it left me feeling bitter. 2 more months passed and still we didn't talk. The days seemed endless, slipping by in a blur. Then, one day, I came home to find my husband gone. I went into his room and something felt off. Huh? Shane's room is never this tidy. Shane isn't exactly known for being neat, but his room was strangely clean. His clothes and suitcase were gone. It hit me then, he'd moved out. I tried calling my in-laws, but their phone was either off or disconnected. Just as I was panicking, my sister, Mimi, called me. Hi sis, it's been a while. Mimi, I can't talk right now. Is he? Your husband isn't there, is he? What? How did you know? Something's not right, I said, feeling a sense of unease. I'm with your husband right now. What? What do you mean? Well, I happened to be at the bar, and I ran into him there. We had a drink, and he mentioned that you two weren't really getting along. Mimi, no, you can't be serious. I am. I'm dating him now, and we're planning to get married, so don't try to stop me. Going away. That's ridiculous. Bring Shane back home right now. I'm sorry I can't. I've actually had feelings for him for a while now, and he's tall and handsome. I'm taking him. Then she hung up. I tried calling her back many times, but she never answered. Instead, she sent me pictures. There were dozens of photos of them together, going on dates, smiling. It was really hard for me to see. A few days later, I received the completed divorce papers signed by Shane. When I called his workplace, they told me he had already quit. I knew I couldn't deal with this on my own anymore. I decided to tell my parents and in-laws about what was happening and ask for their support. So Shane and Mimi are together now. He left his job and wants me to sign the divorce papers, I explained. There was a stunned silence. Then my father-in-law spoke up after a moment. Melanie, I'm truly sorry for our son's foolishness. You don't have to forgive us, and you don't owe us anything. Oh, Father, I can't forgive your sister either. You're like a daughter to me. I can't forgive them for hurting my precious daughter. Everyone echoed his sentiment. In that moment, our feelings towards Shane and Mimi changed completely. My in-laws were already considering moving to a new house, and after this they said, we want nothing to do with our son anymore. And they moved without telling him. My parents also decided to cut ties with my sister. If she ever comes back, we'll act like we don't know her. Someone who would betray their own sister like that isn't our daughter, they said. So I decided to go back home to my parents. I asked for alimony from Shane as part of the divorce agreement. He replied, you'll get it when I get my divorce. Eventually, I received several million yen in alimony along with a message, divorce me. Once the divorce was finalized, I cut all ties with Shane and Mimi. It's been 12 years since then, and a lot has changed. My in-laws demolished the house we lived in and sold the land. I've become more successful as a web designer, and my income has grown significantly. Thanks to this, I can travel often with my parents and live a fulfilling life. Today, while I was working, I got a call. Without checking the caller ID, I answered, thinking it was a client. But instantly, it brought back unpleasant memories. It's been a while, Melanie. How have you been? Shane's voice echoed. I knew he recognized your ex-husband's voice, he chuckled. He's still spouting nonsense like before. What do you want? After 12 years, now you want to talk. I could hear him chuckle. No, you're in my house. Leave within the next 10 minutes. What? What are you talking about? We're facing some financial trouble anyway. I'm heading there now. I'm bringing my wife home to our house. You need to leave my parents' house now. It seems he still believes I'm living with his parents. He thinks that after 12 years, things have settled down and they'll finally be accepted. In the background, I hear my sister saying, that's right, get out of there. But they really have no idea. Do they really think that just because it's been 12 years, everything is forgiven? The world isn't that forgiving, and I won't make it easy for them. But I took a deep breath and replied, if you want to go home, go ahead. But I'm not at your parents' house anymore. Oh really? Did my dad kick you out? How clueless can you be? Your parents' house is gone, Shane. Huh? What do you mean it's gone? Shane's voice started shaking with anxiety. At that moment, he arrived where the house used to stand. He screamed, what the hell? And I could hear the pain in his voice. I continued, as soon as you ran away, we cut ties with both of you. Your parents moved out, and my parents completely disowned the woman you're with. There's nowhere for you to come back to. Are you serious? How is this even possible? Believe it or not, it's up to you, but neither your parents nor mine consider you family anymore. You've proven you're not worthy since you both destroy people's lives. That's awful. But who's to blame for ruining your family? Don't ever call me again. I won't let you ruin my life any more than you already have. With that, I hung up and blocked their number. This time, I cut the last tie. After their failed attempt to go to his parents' house, they tried to come to mine, but my parents have already disowned her. My sister was crying loudly, but my parents just asked, who are you? And ignored them at the gate. Then they both got down on their knees, begging, please forgive us. We have nowhere to go, please. Shane was pleading too. I'm begging you, my parents' house is gone. We have nowhere to go. Shut up, we don't care. You're not family anymore, my parents said as they sprinkled salt on the front door. No, please wait, no, please, I'm begging you, my father-in-law pleaded. You don't get to call me that. Get out of here. They were so persistent that my father ended up sprinkling salt on them, and my mother called the cops for trespassing. They haven't been seen since. Last I heard, they were jobless, homeless, and asking their friends for money. But word got around about them, and no one was willing to help. And even if they returned to their hometown, they'd face the same fate. But they brought it on themselves. They made their bed, and now they have to lie in it. My parents and I will never see them again, and they'll spend the rest of their lives regretting their choices. My name is Olivia, and I'm 40 years old. I've been married to my husband Michael for 10 years. We used to work together, but now we're in different branches. Michael is responsible at work and well-liked by his team. He's confident and ambitious, always wanting to look strong in front of others. I'm more quiet and don't stand out much. It surprised me when Michael, with his strong personality, showed interest in me. After dating for 2 years, he proposed to me with a big bunch of roses. I felt so loved and agreed right away. I looked forward to our future together. But then he surprised me again by saying we live with his parents. I wasn't sure about it, but he was determined. He assured me his parents were nice and excited about us living together, so I agreed in the end. For the past 10 years, I've been living with my in-laws in my husband's house, which was not what I expected when I got married. Every morning starts with my mother-in-law's nagging about little things like cleaning the front door. Even though I make breakfast for everyone, her complaints never end. I apologize and rush to fix it while she heads off to work, leaving me feeling like a servant. Living here means waking up at 5 a.m. to cook and clean, even though my mother-in-law, who stays at home, doesn't lift a finger to help. After rushing through chores, I go to work, and when I come back home, it's straight to making dinner. I'm so tired by bedtime that I often fall asleep instantly. This routine leaves me feeling constantly exhausted and stressed. My mother-in-law lounges in the living room, enjoying the breakfast I made, while reminding me to clean properly so the neighbors won't think poorly of her. It's a cycle that never seems to end. Despite everything, my husband never defends me, and my father-in-law ignores the mistreatment, burying himself in his newspaper. Since I moved in with my husband's family, I've endured awful treatment. The stress has caused me to lose a lot of weight, and my period stopped, making it impossible for me to conceive. Despite my mother-in-law being the cause, I get blamed for it. I used to take care of myself and cared about my looks, but now I hardly recognize myself. The constant harassment from my mother-in-law and seeing my changed appearance in the mirror have left me deeply depressed. I've become completely submissive to her. I feel so numb that I don't even have the energy to think about leaving this house anymore. I received heartbreaking news. My father had passed away suddenly in an accident. I hadn't visited my family home in a long time because both my husband and mother-in-law would scold me whenever I mentioned wanting to go there. Hearing about my father's death, I deeply regretted not spending more time with him. My family home isn't too far, about an hour's drive from my in-laws' place. So I asked my husband and mother-in-law to come to the funeral. I need to go to my father's funeral, I told them. But before I could finish, they coldly replied, "We're not going. Let your family handle it." Their heartlessness stunned me, trembling with anger and grief. All I could manage was to say, "Understood." Many people gathered at my father's funeral. He was self-employed and had many connections, so there were tears all around, showing how loved he was. My mother, whom I hadn't seen in a while, was shocked by how much weight I had lost. "Olivia, what happened to you? You look so thin," she exclaimed worriedly. "Are you sick?" Seeing my worn-out appearance, she burst into tears, fearing she would lose me too. Given her fragile state after my father's death, it wasn't unexpected. "No, Mom, I'm not sick. Please don't worry," I reassured her. I tried to comfort her and took a moment to myself in the waiting room. "If you're not sick, then what's wrong?" My mother's concern prompted me to reflect on my interactions with my husband and mother-in-law. Their lack of comfort or support, even during my father's death, fueled my anger. I decided to confide in my mother about the challenges I face living with my in-laws. Actually, I've been dealing with what feels like bullying from my mother-in-law. It's really taking a toll on me, I admitted, feeling down. My mother's expression turned worried as she looked at me. "I'm glad you're not sick, but this news doesn't ease my mind." "Is that why you haven't been visiting me?" she asked. "Yes," I nodded, confirming her suspicion. My mother handed me a piece of paper and said, "Take a look at this for yourself. Then think carefully about what to do next." When I looked at the paper, I realized it was my father's will. He was always meticulous, so he had prepared one just in case. The will mentioned inheritance. It says I inherit $2 million. I murmured in shock at the large sum. Suddenly, I felt a glimmer of hope. With this, I could build my own house and leave my in-laws' place right away, I thought excitedly. Thanks to the inheritance from my father, things started looking up for me. Back at my in-laws' place, I continued with the household chores as usual. But on days when I had plans, the house tended to get messier since there was no one else to clean up. As I quietly went about my tasks, my mind kept drifting to the $2 million I had inherited. Despite my strained relationship with my mother-in-law, I still wanted to stay with my husband, Michael. So one night after his parents had gone to bed and it was just the two of us, I decided to have an honest conversation about the inheritance and leaving the in-laws' home. There's something I want to talk about, I began, trying to break the silence. Michael looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to continue. Yeah, about my father. Actually, I've come into an inheritance, I said. Of how much? Michael asked. Well, it's $2 million, I replied. Michael's face lit up with excitement. He left you that much. That's generous. But about how to use this money, he trailed off, indicating he wanted to discuss our options. I was about to bring up the main topic, feeling relieved that Michael seemed to be in a good mood. But before I could speak, he suggested something outrageous. We need to transfer that money to my mom's bank account right away, he said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was so absurd that I thought he must be joking. No, why would we do that? The inheritance is mine, so it wouldn't be right to give it to your mom. I laughed, hoping he was just teasing. Michael slammed the table in anger. What are you talking about? A wife's money belongs to her mother-in-law. His words were so absurd that I couldn't believe he was serious. His expression was stern, and it sent a chill down my spine. I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you're saying. All I wanted to do was suggest building a house for us to live together. I tried to explain, but Michael wouldn't let me speak. He insisted on claiming my inheritance for his mother. That night, I couldn't sleep well because of the shock. The next morning, while I was making breakfast, both Michael and my mother-in-law approached me with angry expressions. Olivia, I heard about it. You inherited $2 million, and you said you won't give it to me. Who do you think you are? My mother-in-law exclaimed, adding to my distress. My mother-in-law had already heard of the inheritance from Michael. But I'm the one who inherited it, I protested. Stop arguing and transfer it to my parents' account now. A daughter-in-law's money is our money. Their determination to claim the inheritance by any means was clear. No matter how much I resisted, they continued to blame me. Realizing my resistance was futile, I fell silent. That's when Michael showed me a piece of paper. You're getting carried away because you've come into some money. I'm the one who's been supporting you. If you don't change your attitude, it's divorce, he said, threateningly. The paper turned out to be a divorce form. I've already signed it. Take this and go back to your parents' house. If you apologize properly, I might reconsider the divorce, Michael said, his tone firm. As I received the divorce form with Michael's part fully filled in, memories flooded my mind. I realized that I had never received any financial support in this house. I had been contributing equally to the living expenses, and all the household chores fell on my shoulders. Despite my efforts, they had always treated me poorly. Now they were even attempting to take my father's money. Feeling pressured to give up my father's inheritance if I stayed, being told to leave actually felt like an opportunity. Holding the divorce papers, I realized that the decision about my future was mine to make. I vowed to never surrender my father's legacy, and I made up my mind. After finishing work that day, I returned home. I'm home, welcome back. My mother greeted me with a warm smile. Despite my exhaustion, a home-cooked meal awaited me on the table. It had been so long since I had eaten a meal made by someone else. With each bite of the delicious food, tears of gratitude welled up in my eyes. Did you tell your husband about the inheritance? My mother asked. Yes, and it caused quite a stir, I replied, recounting everything my husband and mother-in-law had said to me. My mother was speechless at the shocking revelation. The inheritance belongs to you, and only you should decide your future. She comforted me gently as I cried. After being cared for at my parents' home for a week, I made the decision to return to my in-laws' house. Well, I'm heading back now. Take care, I said confidently, no longer afraid to face the challenges there. With a renewed sense of strength, I went back to my in-laws' house. Finally, Becca, have you reflected on your behavior? As soon as I returned to my in-laws' house, my husband and mother-in-law confronted me with stern expressions and crossed arms. Yes, I apologize. Please allow me to stay in this house again. I offered a shallow apology. My mother-in-law's face lit up with anticipation. Well then, hand over the inheritance quickly, she demanded. Actually, the inheritance process is taking longer than expected. I haven't received it yet. It's a complex procedure, so it might take another 6 months or so, I explained. 6 months? That long? My mother-in-law's disappointment was evident. Well, fine, she reluctantly accepted. Both my mother-in-law and husband appeared satisfied, thinking their plan was still on track. I obediently handed over the inheritance as they demanded. However, they kept nagging about me spending a week at my parents' house. You're neglecting your duties as a wife. The house is a mess, clean it up quickly, they insisted. Despite the incredibly messy and unhygienic conditions at my in-laws' house, it was almost impressive how quickly they could make such a mess in just a week. I understood their demands. In the past, I would have been deeply upset to see the house in such a state, but now, I didn't care. No matter how much my mother-in-law bullied me or how hard the housework was, it didn't bother me anymore. I simply did as my mother-in-law ordered without letting it affect me. It's my mother-in-law's birthday, so I'll be leaving. Make sure to keep the house clean, my mother-in-law announced, as she always went on a trip for her birthday. Naturally, I wasn't invited. By the way, have you received the inheritance yet? It's supposed to come in today, my husband asked. How convenient. That $2 million can be a birthday present for Mom. Don't forget to transfer it to Mom's account before we get back, my mother-in-law added. It seemed too perfect that my mother-in-law's birthday lined up with the inheritance arrival. My husband couldn't see through my deception. Without a word, I saw them off with a smile, saying, "Take care." As soon as they were out of sight, I sprang into action, ready to execute my plan that I'd been waiting for so long. They'll be in for a surprise when they return from their trip. But I no longer have to concern myself with their reactions. Quickly, I packed my belongings and left my husband's family home behind. Wow, this is incredible, I exclaimed as I moved my things into my new home. Thanks to my father's inheritance, I had been able to build this house. I felt so happy to be living in such a beautiful place, and I decided to share it with my mother, who lives in my hometown. I felt a deep sense of relief knowing I no longer had to worry about those people. Sinking into the plush sofa, I felt content. Today was a celebration of my new home with my mother. We even invited a chef to cook for us, and we spent the day indulging in luxury. The next evening, my husband called me, his voice full of frustration. What the hell is going on? He demanded, clearly confused by the empty house he returned to. I won't be coming back there. Goodbye, I said firmly, trying to end the conversation without further discussion. But my mother-in-law's angry voice came through the phone. What are you doing? Where are you now? She demanded to know. I can't tell you that. You asked me to clean the house, so I packed up my belongings, I replied calmly. That's not a funny joke. Plus, you didn't transfer the inheritance. How many times do I have to tell you that the daughter-in-law's money is mine? She shouted. Huh, I'm single, I retorted. Suddenly, my yelling mother-in-law fell silent. Single? She echoed. Well, I'm a divorcee. I was handed a divorce paper, so I submitted it. I'm a stranger to you now. Goodbye, I said, ending the call abruptly. I couldn't help but laugh, picturing my mother-in-law's stunned face on the other end of the line. I felt a huge sense of relief to be free from that family. Afterward, I received numerous calls from my ex-husband. When I had some free time, I deliberately answered the phone and ignored the insults from my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. I made sure to record all those calls. I decided to seek advice from the police with those recordings. Harassment from an ex-husband is unfortunately common, but it's important to address it before it escalates. Thankfully, the police responded promptly and went to warn my ex-husband's family. For my ex-family-in-law, who valued their public image, just having the police show up was damaging enough. Additionally, a subordinate of my ex-husband who lived in the neighborhood witnessed the police visit. Since my ex-husband was a prominent figure in the company, rumors spread rapidly. Furthermore, colleagues and subordinates who harbored resentment towards my ex-husband began to spread negative gossip about him. Eventually, the rumor made its way to my department. Did you hear about the police visit? My colleagues whispered amongst themselves. I'm divorced now, so I'm not really in the loop, I replied loudly enough for others to hear. The gossip-loving employees eagerly spread the news further. It didn't take long for the rumor to reach my ex-husband's boss. You've been the subject of a lot of negative rumors, haven't you? His boss remarked. What are you talking about? My ex-husband protested. I can't tolerate men who don't appreciate their wives. Furthermore, with these damaging rumors circulating, it will tarnish our company's reputation. Therefore, I've decided to transfer you," his boss declared. The transfer order issued to my ex-husband was severe. "Wait, this place is," my ex-husband began, realizing it was a branch office in the least productive region. "There's no entertainment around whatsoever. It's like being on a deserted island. Do you understand what this means?" His boss continued. Everything my ex-husband had worked for up to that point crumbled, and there was no hope of advancement in the future. Unable to decline the transfer order, my ex-husband had no choice but to relocate to this rural area. As for my ex-mother-in-law, she was likely shocked by her son's tarnished reputation and the fact that she could no longer live with him. This led her to become reclusive and ultimately develop depression. There were also concerns about dementia, as she frequently caused disturbances at home. My ex-father-in-law now finds himself in the difficult position of caring for his drastically changed wife. "Even without blood ties, a daughter-in-law is still a valuable family member," he often remarked. "The challenges faced by my former in-laws could be seen as karma for the harassment they inflicted on me. Now, unhappily living with my mother, we've even taken up gardening in our spacious yard. If I had remained in that house, I might never have discovered this wonderful hobby. Embracing this hobby has revitalized me. My body, once worn down by stress, is now healthy again. I'm grateful to have severed ties with my former in-laws and found true happiness."